How to paint rocks within the landscape. That's what I'll demonstrate on this episode. In a previous video, we covered how to draw rocks as well as how to paint rock examples. And I'll link to that video down below. And on this episode, we go a step further and include those rocks in a watercolor landscape. Let's get started. First, a quick sketch, sketching in these boulders on a ridge landscape very lightly. Grasses, rocks, and a few stunted trees are usually the only thing found on top of these ridges. And for this painting, we'll be using some flat brushes and a mop brush. First, let's take a look at the composition in this painting. Notice that the objects closest to the viewer are larger and objects furthest away appear smaller. This is one of the fundamental design elements which creates depth. Now let's take a look at adding rocks into the landscape. The main focus of this episode is rocks, but maybe I'll do a video on this entire painting from start to finish. If this is something you're interested in, let me know in the comments below. Right now I'm putting down an initial wash of Payne's Gray and a little ultramarine blue. And now more Payne's Gray for the shadow side of the rock. And it's okay for some of the pencil lines to show through because we're going to create little cracks in the rock with a thin brush later on. Now let's take a look at how to enhance these rocks and really make them stand out in the landscape. For example, by painting darker values, such as the foliage behind the rock on the left now appears lighter than it was before. The degree to which we can push these values is really up to the artist, but it's important not to overdo it and not sacrifice other elements of the painting, such as the nice fall colors we've got in the background. The values that we choose to darken don't necessarily have to be right behind lighter objects like the rock. They can be elsewhere in the painting and they can still bring out the lighter values of the painting. Now I'm repeating this exercise on the right-hand side to make the other rock appear lighter. I'm just darkening the values around the rock. So if we want the viewer's eyes to gravitate towards the rocks, if the rocks are the stars of the painting, we want those objects to be the lightest. The viewer generally gravitates towards the lightest objects in the painting, like a moth to light. Notice how the rock now begins to stand out after we've darkened the background. So right now the rock on the right looks like it's kind of floating in space. By adding a shadow underneath the rock, we are grounding the rock on the surface. So now that we've painted all of the areas around the rocks to make them stand out, it's now time to add details to the rocks themselves. To save everyone some time, I've turned this part of the video into a time lapse. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just redefining the darkest areas of the rock. So in this case, the underside of the rock, or the right side of the rock, is the darkest. And then I'm also going through and adding little cracks in the rock here and there to make it more realistic. That's today's episode. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to check out my other rock videos linked down below.